tear down this founding fathers' monument. More history has been erased in the past week than in the previous 50 years. Antifa, Muslims, and their anti-American allies have all been demanding that we tear down Confederate statues, but as Trump predicted, they won't stop there. Trump understands that you should never cave to leftist demands. When you give a liberal an inch, they take a foot. When you give them a foot, they take a mile. This is why it's so crucial that conservatives hold our ground against the onslaught of historical censorship coming our way. The left is intent on completely obliterating American history, in a rather Orwellian fashion. They've demanded that every single Confederate statue in the U.S. be torn down, in addition to streets, highways, and schools being renamed. The Daily Caller summarizes CAIR's response to the largely peaceful right-wing protests. The Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, America's largest Muslim civil rights group, is calling on state and local governments all over the United States to tear down all monuments and memorials commemorating Confederate leaders and the short-lived Confederate States of America. CAIR joined several groups asking for the removal of Confederate memorials in the wake of a Unite the Right white supremacist rally that turned violent over the weekend. At the Charlottesville, Virginia rally, James Alex Fields, a rally attendee, allegedly plowed his gray Dodge Challenger through a large group of people on a pedestrian mall. One woman, Heather Heyer, died in the incident. About 20 other people suffered injuries. Nihad Awad, CAIR's national executive director, urged state and local governments to erase every symbol and every vestige of Confederate history immediately. Muslims all across the country are proclaiming that the statues are racist, and what's worse is that they're being joined by race-baiting, pandering liberals. The Soros-funded Antifa group, an organization which pays liberals to riot, has jumped on the bandwagon as well. We previously reported that Trump has taken a strong stance against them, but it seems that in response, Al Sharpton has taken a stance of his own. Donald Trump has stepped in and refused to pander to the radical Muslims and leftists who wish to see this great country destroyed. He's ordered his Interior Department to safeguard these memoirs of the past. While the far left does everything they can to destroy this country, the iron-willed patriots are fighting back as best they can. Conservatives understand that in order to preserve our great country, we must first preserve our culture and our heritage. If we cave in now to the removal of Confederate monuments, it's only a matter of time before the left pushes for more and more censorship. When you give them an inch, they take a foot. When you give them a foot, they take a mile. And it's time to stop giving them any more ground. Just as President Trump predicted, race-baiting leaders have now begun to call for the more historical censorship. It's no surprise that Al Sharpton has jumped in on the latest opportunity to pander to blacks and milk the racism card for all it's worth. Over the years, he's made numerous racist statements against white people, and practically thinks that we're the cause of all evil in the world. Unfortunately, the media has swept all of this under the rug. They only show you the Al Sharpton they want you to see. The real Al Sharpton, however, has just exposed his true colors. In a moment of rage and fury, he called upon President Trump to end federal funding for the Jefferson Memorial. Daily Caller reports. MSNBC host Al Sharpton is calling for ending federal funding for maintenance and security for the Jefferson Memorial because the third U.S. president owned slaves. When you look at the fact that public monuments are supported by public funds, you're asking me to subsidize the insult of my family. I would repeat that the public should not be paying to uphold somebody who has had that kind of background, Sharpton told CBS host Charlie Rouse. You have private museums, you have other things that you may want to do there, he added. The Jefferson Memorial is a large structure on the banks of the Potomac River, sitting on federal grounds. Jefferson had slaves and children with his slaves. And it does matter, Sharpton continued. I think that people need to understand when people that were enslaved and robbed of even the right to marry, and had forced sex with their slave masters, this is personal to us. This is personal, Sharpton exclaimed. This is not some kind of removed discussion from us, our families were victims of this. Certainly they ought to be removed. Rose began to pose, therefore everybody associated with slavery in terms of a public monument to them, before Sharpton. When you look at the fact that public monuments are supported with public funds, you are asking me to subsidize the insult to my family. Then I repeat, Thomas Jefferson had slaves, Rose injected. Sharpton replied, and I would repeat that the public should not be paying to uphold somebody who has that kind of background. You have private museums, you have other things that you may want to do there. This is how far liberals are willing to go to censor history. They want to erase the Founding Fathers from our history books. They're just like Muslims, they like to get a foot in the door, and then slowly, but ever so surely, they end up owning your entire house. First they claimed they just wanted more tolerance, they started attacking comedians for making racist jokes, they've called out sports teams such as the Redskins, they've demanded that Confederate statues be removed, and now they've gone so far as to condemn Thomas Jefferson. Yes, Thomas Jefferson also owned slaves, but look at some of the other incredible feats he accomplished. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. Served as first U.S. Secretary of State. Made the Louisiana Purchase. Launched the Lewis and Clark Expedition. Founded the Library of Congress. Founded the University of Virginia. Thomas Jefferson was absolutely integral in founding this great nation, and that's exactly why we must not let liberals destroy his monument. If they can tear down the Jefferson Memorial, they can tear down anything. Once that falls, it's over. We're done. We cannot afford to let the leftists begin censoring our founding fathers, because we all know that they won't stop there. They'll go as far as they need to, so long as they run this country into the ground, because they don't care about America, they just care about themselves. Thank you for watching this video. What do you think about this? Share this on Facebook and Twitter along with your comments.